We Americans are a convenience-happy people. Take a look at our homes. More and more, we're depending upon devices to do things for us. Electronic security systems to protect us. Microwave ovens and other paraphernalia to cook our meals. Hi-fi systems, electronic games, television sets to entertain us, sometimes to inform and educate us. We have environmental control systems preset for constant comfort. Some of these things are semi-automated, based on solid-state circuitry, while others are mostly mechanical. For the consumer, especially the consumer, this array offers both convenience and confusion. The problem is most of these things function independently, so that a benefit derived from one doesn't carry over to the other. But suppose you could bring all of them together, unify them in some way, and suppose you gave them a brain, a central coordinating device, so that they could talk to each other, and the homeowner could talk to the system. An interesting idea, almost like science fiction, or a prop from a Hollywood high technology film. But actually, it's neither of these. This is an idea some of the world's largest companies have been kicking around as a means of getting into the growing marketplace for microcomputerized devices. A market that is expected to reach an annual sales volume of over $3 billion by 1982. Honeywell, a giant in the control industry for decades, has been doing some thinking about this problem. And the answer they've come up with is called Vesta 2000. Vesta, after the ancient goddess of the hearth, and 2000 to suggest that tomorrow's technology is really with us right now. Today we'll take a look at Honeywell's idea. We'll talk to some Honeywell people, and we'll visit with a manager of the National Energy Foundation. We'll also watch as a young couple explores the value of Vesta to them. And in the process, we'll try to find out, what is Vesta 2000? What does it cost? And who needs it? Interesting reading about Vesta. She was the goddess the Greeks believed protected their homes. They envisioned her as occupying the hearth, the symbol of home and comfort, that through her blessings, the home fires were kept burning. I guess in this technological age, we've surrendered our household gods. But we haven't given up our desire for protection and economy in the home. And in fact, with the money we invest these days in our home, the whole question of protection is as important as ever. Oh, sure, you can have fun with Vesta 2000, and it provides comfort and convenience, but it also protects our lives, our property, our vital records, our peace of mind. When Honeywell designed Vesta 2000, they wanted it to have the widest possible use in the home to make it attractive to the consumer. A sort of something for everyone approach. And they defined 4 general areas that seemed most important. Of course, they recognized the importance of entertainment to all of us. But as we'll see, this area involves some other important activities. Most important among them, education. Equally common, and just as important, is the area of information storage and retrieval, keeping track of all our vital data, and some things not so vital, but nice to have. One less common function that Vesta offers is in the area of security. Here, the protection function hits home. Security from break-in, protection against hazard, help in times of emergency, or simpler forms of assistance like automatic instructions for the babysitter. And perhaps the greatest potential of all, economy. The economy of total control of energy usage in the home, which gives the owner of Vesta 2000 the opportunity for a good payback. Central to the Honeywell idea is the prevalence of the ordinary television receiver. Today's home has an average of 2.6 sets. The Vesta 2000 is designed to plug into the back of the TV set, which provides the visual display. I see a game has already been called up, and we're ready to go. Which brings us to our first area, entertainment. Of course, game playing is a big form of entertainment. In recent years, we've graduated from board games, like Monopoly, to games we can play with our television sets. Vesta 2000 offers a lengthy list of possible game combinations, just about any game that money can buy. Some are simple, like Hustle, and some are more complex. One that's kind of tough on a guy like me is a game in which the two players run a race by figuring out prime factors. The faster you figure, the faster your car will approach the finish line. Okay, we see that my number is 20. Oh, that's simple. 2 times 10 equals 20. Enter. Whoops, spin out. Hold it here. Well, Joe, I did, well, 2 times 10. Anybody have a scratch? Oh, dear. Well, you get the picture. Whatever happened to marbles or tiddlywinks, anyway? There is a serious side to the entertainment module. It performs an important educational function. Certainly, it could prove a great cost cutter to the parents of handicapped children who could avoid spending money for thousands of hours of special classroom training just by having the right learning module. If game playing seems frivolous to some, it's a good idea to remember that TV games have one important aspect. They are teaching people, especially young people, to think of the television screen as an interactive device. It's no longer the boob tube to some people. It has become the means by which a person may talk to a computer. To get information into or out of a computer, one has to be able to communicate with it. Information. We're inundated with it. The average person receives thousands of messages a day. Some are important, some not. The brain processes these bits and tries to retain them. Unfortunately, our memories don't always work as well as we'd like them to. Vesta 2000 has an enormous memory for information and an endless list of information categories. In housekeeping, there's menu planning. Vesta can tell you how to expand a recipe for 4 persons to cover a dinner party of 8. It will keep tax records, budgets, important serial numbers, personal telephone directories. Vesta makes paper clutter disappear. With an optional telephone hookup, it will handle automatic number forwarding, automatic dialing, speed dialing, and so on. Vesta has a personal programming module so that the owner can make special use of its processing power. A school teacher could use Vesta to keep a running account of students' grading and performance. A dedicated traveler could bone up on French before the next trip to Europe. That's a quick look at 2 of Vesta's basic functions, entertainment and information. We'll take a closer look at the areas of protection and economy when we return in just a few minutes. Burglary is not the only threat to domestic security, but of course it's a big one. With all we have invested in our homes today, in time, money, and memories, it would seem worth a certain price to protect all that. Well, Vesta 2000 has found a way, and here to explain how, we're going to talk to Jane Sharp of the Home Electronics Center, which sells and installs Vesta 2000. Okay, Jane, the big question is, what is it we've just seen? How does this whole thing work?
Well, I think a good way to start would be with a look at the kit of materials that makes up your protection system. We call it Vesta Care. Now, of course, you start with a central console, the 2000, and this works with the other outboard devices. There's an intrusion switch, a communicator, a remote-controlled wall switch. This is an automatic phone dialer, and these are the special sensors for doors, windows, strong boxes, things like that.
This is a sensor? It's no bigger than a bottle cap.
Yes, but it does contain a battery and motion-sensing circuitry. It's like a little computer.
I don't believe it. There's a battery and a computer in there?
Well, that's what we call the miracle of microcomputer technology.
You salespeople have a phrase for everything. Okay, how does it work?
Well, as you TV people say, let's take another look at that play. This is a view of the interior that will show what happened when that back window was opened. When the residents left the house for the weekend, they told Vesta to be on full alert status.
So, when the window was opened, a sensor signaled the central console,
Yeah.
and Vesta ordered the telephone dialing voice to call a designated number and give the alert?
Right. Meanwhile, Vesta signaled the main lights to come on and the living room drapes to open.
That's pretty fast action. Pretty smart, too. Between the lights and the draperies, the burglar is going to know he's been spotted.
Oh, well, if he's got the nerve, he might grab something and run with it. But he knows that he hasn't got time for the leisurely rummaging around he was planning on.
Chances are he's not going to know that no one's home, so he's not going to risk going inside.
Right.
Isn't there something Vesta can do to keep burglars away?
Oh, yes. Now, the one we saw in film was pretty bold. All the while the people were away, Vesta was busy. From time to time, it turned lights on or off, opened and closed drapes, and things like that. So an observer really wouldn't be sure whether someone was home or not.
Stands guard round the clock.
Right.
Okay, what about other emergencies? What if the house caught on fire?
Ah, well, that's where you need this.
What's that? It looks like a broadcast mic or something.
Well, it's Vesta's hazard sensor alert device. It takes the place of a conventional smoke detector. Oh, I mean, it serves the same function, only this can talk to the central console. Again, if it smells smoke, it signals Vesta and a number of things happen. An alarm sounds, the lights go on so the occupants can escape the house safely, and it calls an emergency number.
I guess Vesta really stands guard over you to keep troubles away.
Yeah.
Can Vesta sense troubles before they become too serious?
Yes, Vesta has a gas leak detector, too. If it smells gas, it will tell you, actually tell you. It has a voice called an enunciator. Then if there's a fault in the furnace, say the belt comes off the fan or something like that, it will tell you hours before you notice that your house is getting cold.
That's a point of economy.
Right.
Think of the money you save by not moving the family to a motel before the mechanic gets around you.
Oh, of course. And if there's a problem while you're on vacation...
I know. The automatic dialing thing calls for help.
Right.
Jane, how does Vesta do all these things?
Again, the microcomputer. If you take a look in the back of Vesta, can you see this back here? There are a number of slots with microchips in them.
Oh, I know what that is. That's a computer on a chip.
Yes. This particular one operates the security protection mode that we just saw a demonstration of. All the intelligence that it took to do all that stuff we saw is on this one little piece of plastic.
You mean there's one of those for each function Vesta performs?
Right. Entertainment, information, security, and economy. It makes Vesta Modular flexible and a sensible buy. You can get the ones you need most now and add others later on. There are 6 chips in all.
Hard to install? There must be a lot of wiring and stuff.
Oh, no, it's really quite simple because the entire system is based on signal communications, like those window devices, or on power line carriers like this.
How's that work?
Oh, simple. You just plug it into an outlet in your house, and it transforms your house wiring into a communications cable.
Oh, good. Then unless you're all thumbs, like myself, you can install Vesta yourself.
Oh, yes. Many of our customers prefer to. But for those who are a little afraid of the job, we offer installation service.
Ah, that's more my street. Thanks, Jane, for the demonstration. I think we've just seen a new definition of home security with Vesta 2000. Okay, next we'll return to the beach house for that all-important area of economy and how Vesta 2000 can pay for its own keep.
Good morning. It's 7:15. The forecast for today is sunny and mild. High 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Present temperature is 42 degrees. The air is calm, sky is partly cloudy. The coffee and rolls you requested will be ready in 25 minutes. Please check for overnight messages. The special news report you requested will begin in 30 minutes, unless you'd care to call it up sooner. Have a nice day.
What we have just seen is a slightly utopian view of comfort and convenience in the home. But with Vesta, utopia is now. And the best of both worlds, these creature comforts translate into real value through energy economy. Vesta's day doesn't begin when the alarm sounds in the morning. It's working for the owner 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, regulating, monitoring, anticipating problems that could become costly if left unresolved. Through the night, Vesta monitored the indoor environment, kept the thermostat at 65 degrees. But at 6:30 a.m., 45 minutes before wake-up time, it moved the temperature up to 72 to make getting out of bed a bit easier. From there on, Vesta is busy as a house full of servants, getting the family up and off to work or school, all the while keeping an eye on energy use. By 9, the family is gone, and Vesta effectively quiets down the home's mechanical systems. Since economy stands at the core of Vesta's attractiveness, we wanted to check directly with the people involved in setting the nation's energy policy and standards, the National Energy Foundation. So we went to Washington to interview Dr. Reed Day. He's manager of the residential energy economy for the agency. Our Washington education reporter, Chris McGovern, interviewed Dr. Day, and here's the report.
Dr. Day, as you know, Honeywell has developed Vesta 2000 for residential use. Can it really do what they say? Will it pay for itself with time?
Chris, American technology now has the means to tie the basic mechanical systems in most homes to a computer-controlled system with very rewarding results. Honeywell's Vesta system will produce significant energy savings based upon its control functions. Heating, ventilating, and air conditioning delivered in comfort demand within programmed control will produce, for the average homeowner, savings of 20 to 30%. And dollar savings will become more significant as energy costs escalate, which they surely will.
Isn't there another way? Is Vesta really critical?
Short of manual intervention, having someone around the house to regularly start and set dozens of fans, flames, exhausts, and heating elements, a computer-controlled system is the only practical answer. And it's probably more efficient than manual operation. You see, computers don't forget so easily as we humans do. And microprocessor technology has placed that pinpoint control within reach of today's homeowner.
Thanks, Dr. Day. Our studio crew is ready with another demonstration of how Vesta's efficiency translates into economy. Back to you, Dave.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks to Reed Day. This whole question of energy economy is pretty important today. Rising fuel costs have caught everybody a bit short. Vesta has a special talent that homeowners are finding very valuable. Honeywell calls it economation, and it works like this. With not too much prompting, Vesta will show the homeowners what they've been paying for energy over a given period. Then, with a little more prompting from the user, It will perform an analysis of patterns of energy use over time. Compare that with information supplied by the sensor system and tell if you're using too much fuel to heat or cool a room that isn't getting much use. Vesta is always ready with a few helpful hints. What does all this mean in savings? The Honeywell people who invented Vesta tell us that the combination of home energy management and careful resource analysis can result over time in a savings of 30%. That is a payback. At the beach house, with a pre-Vesta history of $1,200 a year in fuel bills, that's a cool $360 saved. I think we all get the point that Vesta can pay for its own keep. But for all of Vesta's benefits, some questions remain. Who is buying it? And what does its marketing forecast look like? We'll try to answer those questions in a few minutes.
Oh, Bill, I'm going to be late tonight, so you two don't wait out for me, okay?
Okay, honey.
The primary market for Vesta is the group industry analysts call the innovators. These are people 25 to 40 years old, reasonably affluent, fairly sophisticated, and probably are oriented toward and familiar with technology. This segment of the market tends to consist of busy career people who would perceive the value of Vesta both in dollars and cents and convenience and security. As innovators, they are the first to buy the color television set or the Betamax. They discover an idea, make wide use of it, and open the doors to the mass market. Bill and Cindy Field are such people. He's a lawyer, she's a fashion designer. Like everyone else, they feel the economic pinch of inflation and are always looking for ways to relieve the pressure.
Damn, I can't believe what's happening to the price of gas. It says here we'll be paying $1.50 a gallon by next year.
I know, and the price of natural gas and electricity keep going up. Honey, have you seen this month's electric bill?
Please, dear, you'll spoil my appetite. Amy, eat your breakfast. Hetty's had enough now.
Teddy doesn't like it.
Well, sweetheart, that's because he doesn't know it's good for him.
Bet it doesn't taste good. I wouldn't blame him.
Cindy, listen to this. Vesta 2000 makes your current climate control system obsolete, pays for itself in 3 years, saves energy, entertains, informs. Sounds interesting. Maybe we should have a look. It's at the Home Electronics Center.
Well, you know, I love things that pay for themselves. Hey, listen, it says here that it'll work with your present TV set, and it has a control panel for central air and all of that. Well, look, maybe we should look at this before we decide on that home entertainment center.
I bet it even tells time.
And speaking of time, we better get going if we're going, or we're going to be late for tennis.
Freddy's all ready.
Bill and Cindy found their curiosity aroused. The ad appealed to them because it seemed to offer something that would perform a number of needed functions. Good morning.
Hi.
And its economy aspect seemed to make it affordable. They met with Jay Richards at Home Electronics Center and talked about the prospect of having Vesta move in with them.
Sure. Well, your questions are all very good ones. Now, what you're going to probably want is the Vesta 2000. It's designed so that it'll fit in any installation. Now, the price is related to the amount of things and events in your house you want to control.
Well, what would we have to buy to start out?
Well, you should have the main 2000. Now, that is your central coordinating console. And then you should get the ECP. That's the Environmental Control Panel.
Well, we were thinking of a fuel saver.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, the fuel saver is very good. But with the Vesta, the ECP is a lot better because it does a lot of other things. It's very flexible.
Well, how do you operate it?
Well, what it is actually a computer. So you can set it a week at a time. And the program will keep repeating itself until it's reset. So it's easy to do. As you can see, there are two groups of punch keys and a digital readout above. The group of keys on the left indicates system functions controlled in this particular center, and the group on the right allow the user to give the computer instructions.
How do you do that?
Okay, suppose you want to check on the temperature schedule status of your air conditioner for today. Just touch the button marked SCED or SHED, and the system will ask you which house zone you want. Now let's say you want zone 1, so press 1.
When the display responds with the question, what day, you respond by touching your desired day, say Tuesday. Now we see that the first temperature change to 72 degrees is to occur at 6:45 a.m. on Tuesday. By pressing Next Change, we see that at 8:05 a.m., when you've all left the house for the day, the temperature will go to 80 degrees. That will save you money because the air conditioner runs less to keep it at 80 rather than 72. Again pressing Next Change, we see that the temperature will become cooler this afternoon at 4:50, cooling to 72. Suppose that's your normal time to return home, but that today only you'll be home later at 8:15. Just press New Time, then touch 8, then 1, then 5, then PM. Your new comfort level is now set.
That's certainly simple enough. Even I could do that, huh? But tell me, how does convenience translate into economy?
Well, dollar savings, or penalties for that matter, are automatically calculated for you. When I touch Shed to get out of this mode of scheduling we're now doing, you'll find out in dollars and cents what effect you've had.
That's interesting. Honey, I think we should give it a try.
Bill and Cindy found Vesta both appealing and exciting. It was not hard for them to imagine its functional value and convenience. And they were pleased to find that they could buy into the system for about $1,500. They chose the entertainment and environmental control modules to start with, but soon added the information and protection packages, another $600.
Well, what would we have to buy?
Now a few words from Bob Chambers, a Honeywell marketing manager. Bob, tell us a little more about the Vesta marketing story. Has it been a success?
So far, we're very pleased with the success that we've had. I think I'd have to say that we're cautiously optimistic in terms of initial sales.
What has been the basic marketing strategy?
We felt we had to pipeline the idea of Vesta to a market that was willing to listen and try it out. Admittedly, it was a small group of fairly affluent people that we were aiming for. Innovators, like Bill and Cindy Field. We need what a social scientist might call a cultural avant-garde to accept the idea and establish a trend.
Interesting, sort of like introducing a trend, like disco dancing.
Something like that. It's that innovative market that we're tapping right now. From there, I think we can demonstrate to the general public that Vesta has great potential for people in the middle income area. Potential for economy and enjoyment.
Fascinating idea, Vesta. You're actually bringing the future right into the present. Thank you, Bob. Well, there you have it. The story of the computerized household. Of course, Vesta hasn't been produced or marketed yet. It remains an idea, a marketing potential. Someone probably will produce Vesta or something like it. The question is, will it be Honeywell? I'm Dave Moore. Thank you for your time.
And now, introducing the red team that made all of this possible.
Lee Gilgash, Minneapolis, research technician.
Greg Haskin, Columbia Heights, lead technician.
Roger Moen, Brooklyn Park, distributed processing specialist.
Ron Chandler, I'm from St. Paul and lead software designer.
Ed Rugerman, Chaska, Minnesota, lead hardware designer.
Dick Lane, I'm from Deep Haven, I'm the project manager.
I'm of a generation that grew up understanding that you control the energy level or the temperature in your home with a round brass knob that hung on the wall with the name Honeywell on it. Now I'm confronted with the new controls of household appliances and the environmental panel of Vesta 2000, and I suddenly realize that I'm being pulled into the computer age whether I'm ready for it or not, and sometimes I'm almost convinced I'm not ready for it. Thankfully, I am in the presence of Dr. Chris Clark. And her job as a human factors specialist at Honeywell is to make sure that I'm not intimidated by these controls. Beyond that, Chris, tell me just exactly what a human factors specialist does at Honeywell.
Human factors, by the way, is not a new idea at Honeywell. Honeywell has had human factors specialists on its staff for over 25 years. But during most of that time, these specialists have been concerned primarily with designing products for military applications. But in more recent years, these specialists have had increasing involvement in the design of products in some of Honeywell's other non-military businesses as well.
More increased involvement. Chris, what's been happening in the world and at Honeywell that would make a human factors specialist necessary?
The primary reason for this increased involvement is the microelectronics revolution. Microelectronics is making it possible for us to design products with significantly increased capability and flexibility than in the past. Furthermore, the cost of microelectronics is making it possible to put these very powerful new products into the hands of a wider variety of people. And these consumers, just like yourself, are not apt to be computer programmers or electronics wizards, and they probably are not ever going to get specific training on how to use our particular product. So what our job has become is one of trying to design what are some rather sophisticated products in a way that continues to make your life easier rather than in fact making it more complicated, as you suggested we might be doing. By the way, this is also good for Honeywell as well, because it allows us to save costs in the design process by considering the human. It allows us to have a product that's more acceptable to the consumer and hence to increase our sales and potentially even limit the risk of some product recalls as well.
So then beyond convenience and design and control, it makes good business to have.
Absolutely, it makes good business. After all the other companies have access to the same advances in technology, but Honeywell also has this unusual human factors expertise that allows us to sort of tailor each of our products to the intended user. And this is the kind of thing that we think gives Honeywell a winning edge.
Can you cite me a particular problem in this microprocessing technology that you would be called upon to solve as a human factors specialist?
Sure. In fact, one of the areas that we're concerned with right now is how to make it possible for you to schedule certain kinds of control functions, like changes in temperature, to occur sometime in the future. You mentioned, for example, that you're used to regulating the energy use in your home by making rather simple changes on a single dial of a Honeywell round. And you do this every time you'd like to make a change, providing you remember to do so. On the other hand, this microprocessor-based unit allows you to tell this unit in advance when you would like those temperature changes to occur and exactly how big the changes ought to be. Furthermore, they can be different changes on different days of the week as well. But now, what this forces you also to do is to make a number of decisions. Exactly what temperature would you like it to be? At what time would you like it to change? Do you want it to be the same on Monday as it is on Sunday, etc.? So you have to answer a number of different questions, and furthermore, you have to be able to tell this device exactly what the answers to those questions are.
So what you're telling me is the technology is there, But what good is it if the human can't cope with it, can't make it work? Isn't that the burning issue?
That's the issue. The human can be the limiting factor if he doesn't know how to communicate to those smart devices.
Chris, we know you've been working very hard toward making this technology more compatible with humans. Tell me how you go about it. What's involved in the programmable process? Here we are in the laboratory. Tell me about that.
What we've been trying to do in a recent study is to use this concept of a programmable thermostat sort of as an experimental vehicle to investigate this more general problem of programming things to happen sometime in the future. The problem also relates to, for instance, programming your lights to come on at certain times or small appliances to come on at certain times. So this issue is not restricted to the thermostat. But what we have done is to design several alternative ways of producing a thermostat control panel, and we have brought in typical homeowners who have acted as experimental subjects to help us evaluate whether or not those control panels really are easy to use or difficult to use, are air prone, etc. It's important to notice that what we have not done is to build three-dimensional models of several different products. That can be rather expensive. What we've done instead is to simply paint a picture of each one of those control panels on a very special kind of screen. And this screen is computer driven, so what it allows us to do is to make that panel act as if it were a real panel. Simply by touching a control on the panel, it will respond just as it would if it were hanging on your living room wall at home.
I see. What's he have to do? What's that man doing now?
When these subjects came into our laboratory, we had them read a very short word problem that described a typical household scenario. I leave home at 7 o'clock, I'd like my temperature to be lower, but I'd like it higher when I come back home, etc. After having read that problem, the subject was instructed to design an appropriate time and temperature schedule and then to tell the experimental control panel exactly what that schedule should be. So he tried to use these design alternatives to input schedule information. In fact, there are a couple of the design alternatives that you might like to look at. We considered several different design approaches. Only two of them are shown here. But one of these two might have been the particular panel that that subject in the picture was looking at, the panel that he then had to use to input information.
How did you know or determine which one of these two displays was preferred?
We see, in addition to being able to generate these displays on this special panel I described to you, we were also able to monitor with a computer exactly what buttons the subject touched at any particular time and in what order and how long he waited between touching one button and touching another. That kind of information can tell us whether or not it took him a very long time to learn how to do that problem and whether he made a lot of mistakes and exactly which mistakes he was making at that time. So that constitutes our hard data.
From all of this, Chris, what implications have you found for Vesta 2000?
Well, contrary to what it might appear, this somewhat more complicated appearing control panel did not end up being more complicated when users tried to use it. In fact, they learned how to use this particular control panel more rapidly, they made fewer errors, and in fact they felt more comfortable, that is, more convinced that they could use such a panel if it were in their own home. Therefore, we might like to incorporate some of the particular features that we find in this panel into a Vesta 2000 control panel or other kinds of environmental panels.
Chris, we've been reading recently about the human error factor at 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. Of course, we've heard about consumer recalls in microwave ovens. Would a human factor specialist have helped to prevent those kinds of things from happening?
Overlooking the human user can sometimes have rather devastating consequences, as you've just referred to. Now, certainly the consequences of misprogramming something like a thermostat are not nearly as severe as the one that you've just cited, but to Honeywell, they are nonetheless very important. After all, we do have an obligation, a corporate responsibility to look after issues like that. We have obligations to the consumer, to our management, to the stockholders, to produce products that do serve a user's need, that we can design in a cost-effective fashion, that we limit the probability of getting tangled up in a product liability suit at some point in time. So it is a corporate responsibility that we attend to this type of human factors effort.
Well, thank you, Chris. You have helped me face up to my future. Now, for starters, dear, how warm do we want the room when we come home on Tuesday night? Well, I'll try to figure it out.